It's now time to take a look at conversation points that we had a year ago and reignite them. Because with all the new information we have gotten over the past few weeks, with the 2025 NHL Draft Lottery confirming the order of the first half of the first round, we now have ourselves a more intricate picture at how lucky the Canadiens were. This is the rejected Ivan Demidov trade proposal between Chicago and Columbus. Now, I think we did... not confirmed, but I think we did make a video about this at some point last year, but revisiting this conversation in 2025 is all the more interesting because of the aftermath. Let's reintroduce the stakes right here. So, in the 2024 NHL Entry Draft, the top 5 went as follows. Macklin Celebrini went number 1 to San Jose. Artyom Levshunov went number 2 to Chicago. Beckett Sennecke went 3rd overall to the Anaheim Ducks. Cayden Lindstrom went 4th overall to the Columbus Blue Jackets. And Montreal took Ivan Demidov 5th overall. This was a pretty good top 5, and despite the fact that there were some surprises, like Beckett Sennecke going number 3, that was a pretty big shock, I would say, in the eyes of a lot of scouting people. Artyom Levshunov going number 2, not that big of a surprise when you consider how Chicago wanted a defenseman, but this is the thing with the Chicago Blackhawks. Yes, it is true that they took Levshunov number 2. But what is also true is that they didn't want to just stop at taking Artyom Levshunov. Here's a post made by Pierre LeBrun from a year ago. This was on the first day of the NHL Draft at the Vegas Sphere. There could have been fireworks at the top of the draft tonight. I'm hearing that the Blackhawks offered next year's first-round pick, unprotected, plus another pick, in return for the 4th overall pick. I believe it came pretty close, but the Columbus Blue Jackets passed. They really love Cayden Lindstrom, and they couldn't pass up taking him. Keep that in the back of your minds here, folks. Chicago offered their next first-round pick in 2025 and another pick in exchange for 4th overall. But the Jackets wanted Cayden Lindstrom so bad that they said, nah, we're not going to take your unprotected 2025 first and your extra pick. We're going to keep our 4th overall pick, and we're going to draft Cayden Lindstrom. Now, you can make the debate as to whether or not that was a good or a bad pick. I think just from the perspective of the talent that Lindstrom has, it's a fine pick at 4th overall. It's just the guy didn't end up playing any hockey for the next year, which was very unfortunate. He has recently come back, though, which is great to see. He got a point earlier yesterday as well. He's at 2 points in 2 games in the WHL finals as he's starting to play hockey again. These are his first games since the end of last season. He's been hurt that long. But in order to expand more on this Chicago conversation, how they wanted the 4th overall pick, and how CBJ said no because they wanted Lindstrom, let's take a look at this post made by Charlie Romeliadis from last year as well. This was after the draft, and during the first day of free agency. The Blackhawks GM Kyle Davidson offered Columbus an unprotected first-round pick in 2025 and more for number 4th overall, presumably to take Ivan Demidov. Now we know why. Chicago's roster next season should be much more competitive after a busy day 1 of NHL free agency. So now we are getting word, and this is not the only place that we have talked about this. This has been discussed on a whole bunch of other platforms too. But now we're getting word that Chicago really wanted Ivan Demidov. Yes, they took Levshunov at number 2. They had Connor Bedard in the 1st overall spot the year before, so they didn't want to double dip with 2 forwards in the top 2, but they did still want Demidov. They're like, hey, we're going to get Bedard, we're going to get Demidov, and we're going to get Levshunov at the point. This will be our version of Kane, Taves, and Keith, essentially. Kind of different, but still, you get what I mean. Chicago wanted to have those pieces in place to build yet another dynasty, and they wanted Demidov at number 4. But here's the thing that I'm thinking about. Chicago offered Columbus their unprotected 2025 first-round pick plus another pick or two for the 4th overall pick in order to select Demidov. Had the Blue Jackets taken this pick, and had the Blue Jackets just let the 4th overall selection go to Chicago, Demidov would have gone number 4, and the Habs would have been stuck drafting somebody else, maybe a Berkly Catton or a Iginla. We can go down that timeline another day. But what I'm thinking about is the fact that right now, the Chicago Blackhawks are drafting 3rd overall in the 2025 NHL Entry Draft. The Blue Jackets turned down a chance at getting a top 3 pick in this year's draft because they wanted to hold on to the right to drafting Cayden Lindstrom. Now again, you can debate whether or not that was the right move or the wrong move, but considering the talent that's available in this draft, the question begs itself. Okay, if we assume Matthew Schaefer and Michael Misa go 1 and 2 to New York and San Jose, would you rather have Cayden Lindstrom in your organization, or what? Whomever is going to go 3rd overall in this year's draft. Let's just say James Higgins, or another guy could be there like Roger McQueen, Porter Martone. Would you rather have one of these guys plus another pick, or Cayden Lindstrom by himself? Does that decision change itself when you acknowledge how Cayden Lindstrom has been hurt the past year and a bit? Sure, he's still a good hockey player. He came back into the WHL. He scored points in the final. He's looking fine. But you have to question it a little bit. And I think for the Montreal Canadiens, they really dodged a bullet here because the Columbus Blue Jackets just really, really liked that Cayden Lindstrom. Because all of a sudden now you're thinking about it like, hey, if Columbus wanted to go for a bigger power forward-like guy in these entry drafts, I mean, Porter Martone is right there in the OHL at this year's draft. You'll probably be able to take him 3rd overall. If the Blue Jackets wanted that kind of a profile, do you think Porter Martone and another extra draft pick would have been more valuable than what Cayden Lindstrom is right now? I would say the argument is there to be made. And that is not to discredit Cayden Lindstrom, it's more so to talk about how crazy it was that Chicago offered up a 2025 unprotected first-round pick to take Ivan Demidov in that 4th overall spot. Montreal dodged the bullet. Chicago, they didn't get too much better, even though they ended up signing a whole bunch of guys in the offseason and they made some big additions. I mean, that Chicago roster from 23-24 to 24-25, there was so much turnover, but Connor Bedard wasn't able to do as well, unfortunately. One might have to think that if the Blackhawks were able to pull it off, let's say they get Ivan Demidov, Demidov and Bedard together would be nuts. Absolute terrifying hockey out of those guys combined together, with Levshunov at the point too. So the vision here for Chicago is really easy to understand. It is so simple to see why they wanted to go down that avenue, but big shout out over to the Columbus Blue Jackets for saying, nah, sorry, we don't want your unprotected first-round pick that, unbeknownst to them, would have been 3rd overall in 2025. Columbus wanted to keep that 4th overall last year, and they really wanted Cayden Lindstrom. So the Habs ended up dodging a bullet here with this rejected Ivan Demidov trade offer. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Blue Jackets and Cayden Lindstrom, how the Blackhawks wanted Demidov, and how the Habs ended up getting him instead. Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.